Hi guys, Matt V's Movies back for another video, and today is a chat video. Some other YouTubers have been doing these about how they got into collecting, their sort of history with cinema, this kind of thing. So yeah, we're going to have a quick chat today on the video. So welcome back. So yeah. Okay, so my history of collecting and, well, falling in love with movies. So I was born in 1972, and my sort of earliest recollections of seeing films was probably in the late 70s. I did go to see Moonraker at the cinema. That's where I sort of fell in love with James Bond, Roger Moore as the Bond that I grew up with. And it was the only Bond film I think I saw for a long time at the cinema. And I've still got the programme here. Can't get it out at the moment, but yeah, in that corner there's a programme for Moonraker, which we got at the cinema. The next film that I can remember seeing, I think was in 1981, and that was The Empire Strikes Back. Is it 81? Something like that anyway. Maybe 1980, I can't, whatever the date was. Anyway, yeah, went to the cinema to see that 3 times. It's the only time I've ever seen a film 3 times at the cinema. And absolutely loved the film. I can remember seeing Star Wars at the cinema as well, Leicester Square. That was 77, wasn't it? So that might have been the first film I actually saw at the cinema, rather than Moonraker, because Moonraker was 79. But yeah, fell in love with Star Wars, and like I say, went to see The Empire Strikes Back 3 times. Absolutely fantastic. Never actually went to see Return of the Jedi, strangely enough, at the cinema in the initial release. Obviously, when they re-released them, the special editions, yeah, I did go back and see all 3 films at the cinema. That was back in the 90s, I think. And I may be a bit off with dates here, but yeah. And then growing up, sort of in the 80s, sort of had the VHS days. And I can remember my dad buying one of these sort of, well, no, it was renting actually. He rented one of those VHS players, which was one of the pop-up ones where the cassette would come, well, the loading mechanism would come up and you'd put the tape in and then you'd press it down. And it had what was called piano keys. So you play, stop, fast forward, reverse. They were all like piano keys. And yeah, that was the first VHS that we had. We rented it. Radio Rentals, or I can't remember who it was. And I always remember where we were living, there was a guy that used to come. He used to come in a car, and he used to open up the boot, and he used to have a load of VHS rentals in the back of the boot. It was a strange way of doing it, but every week he would come along, and you'd give back your tapes, and then he would give you some more on a rental. And kind of looking back on it, it almost sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? Sort of out the back of a car sort of thing. But we did that for a little while, and then I do remember having recollections of going into video stores. This was before the days of Blockbuster. I do remember the chain called Ritz. That was actually the predecessor to Blockbuster. The Ritz rental stores. They were then sort of taken over by Blockbuster, and yeah, we used to use those, and but we used to use a lot of independent stores as well. There was one particular store where I can remember going in my teenage years, and remember seeing all the martial arts films that were in there. You know, the Chuck Norris films, Bruce Lee, Cynthia Rothrock, yeah, all those, Jackie Chan, all those, yeah, on VHS. And occasionally they would sell a VHS tape, an ex-rental, and the price was crazy, crazy money. So yeah, some good memories of, you know, sort of renting films, way before they were ever sold retail. And that went on for many years. And then I can remember always watching films with my dad. He's sadly passed away now. But he was the real inspiration for me getting into films. We used to watch sort of action films together, and he wasn't so much into sci-fi, but he did love his action films. And yeah, I can remember many films he used to watch. He used to like sort of gangster films as well. And one particular film that I do have in my collection, which is quite a special film for me, because it's really, you know, it's a film my dad loved, and that was The Long Good Friday. And that was Bob Hoskins in the lead role. Great British gangster film of the 80s, and Arrow produced some great editions. I've got the steelbook, the Blu-ray steelbook that was brought out, and more recently, in the last year or so, they brought out the 4K edition, and I've got the Arrow exclusive of that. I don't think I've actually opened that up yet to watch it in 4K. Maybe this Good Friday would be a good opportunity to do that. Anyway, let's get back to where I was in my collecting history. So yeah, like I say, in the sort of 90s, late 80s, early 90s, I used to watch a lot of action films with my dad. And it wasn't really until I started work and was earning my own money that I then used to go into places like Woolworths, which was a store in the UK, which was, it sold lots of different things, CDs, VHS at the time, magazines, sweets, the old pick and mix that we used to love in the UK, very, you know, famous sort of for people in the UK, pick and mix. So there was Woolworths, and there's also WH Smith's, and that was a stationery. And they're still going, WH Smith's now, although they are scaling back quite a bit. Not sure much how long they'll be on the high street, to be honest. But yeah, they used to sell VHS, and I've told this story before. When I was earning enough money to sort of start buying VHS, I found a special edition of The Abyss that I do have in my collection, and it's the final VHS that I actually bought. I decided after I bought that I wasn't going to collect VHS anymore, and I did a video on that, and that's on the channel. Anyway, this was back in the 90s, and I saw this particular edition and was like, wow, this is a collector's edition. And it was a numbered edition, came with a VHS tape, came with a collector's booklet in a nice case. And I kind of debated about it, and I went away and I walked around the shops sort of in the town that I was sort of used to go to, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to go and get it. So I went back, and it had gone. Somebody bought it. It was the only copy they had, and I think that was the real sort of thing for me for collector's editions, that I always felt, right, I'm gonna, you know, if I sit collector's edition I want, I'm gonna get it. And then through the 90s I did collect some VHS, not a huge amount. I still have some of those VHS in my collection now. Not many, no. It's mainly sort of some martial arts, Bruce Lee stuff, documentaries. There's a nice Indiana Jones box that I have, that the spines make up the picture of Indiana Jones, and you've probably seen that on the channel. It's in the playlist. There's a video about that. Back to the Future, same thing, the spines that made up the DeLorean, the end, you know, the sort of back of the DeLorean. And yeah, I collected some of those sort of editions sort of in the 90s, and a couple of really nice editions that I bought. One was the Alien Facehugger box set, which I've shown. Really nice edition, that. Unfortunately, I never got the t-shirt with that for some reason. I don't know why. I think it was sort of reduced. I remember getting it from W.H. Smith's, but I think because it didn't have the t-shirt, it had everything else. Like I say, I still got that set today. And also my parents bought me the Star Wars, the original trilogy, Excelsior tin edition. I've still got that. Wonderful edition, that, with a really nice book. This was on the re-release of the special editions at the time. You know, all in VHS, and the box, the boxes they were housed in had all sort of individual lightsabers in different colours, very different artwork to the standard sort of releases that we got for Star Wars. And it came with some lobby cards, some really nice lobby cards. I've still all got it upstairs, in a box, in the original box that it came in. And yeah, that's sort of, again, quite a special thing for me, because say, not having both parents now, both passed away sadly, it's quite sentimental, you know, to keep that edition, and for 3 films that I absolutely love. So then we moved into the sort of mid-90s, and DVD came along. Now, as I say, I didn't collect that much VHS. You know, I only had a small amount of money. I wasn't earning much money in those days, but I collected a few bits, like I say, and still have some of those editions. And the same with DVD. I didn't pick up that much in the DVD sort of era of physical media. I did pick up a selection of films sort of in the mid-90s, and again, I've still got those editions to this day. I would say I've actually collected more DVD in more recent years, from charity shops, eBay, you know. Yeah, for a good while, I would say between the sort of mid-90s and, well, mid-2000s, my collecting was quite limited. I didn't collect that much physical media. I had a lot going on in my life. I was out and about doing, you know, a lot of socialising, this kind of thing. So movie watching at that point in my life wasn't really a big priority. Although I still enjoyed going to the cinema and seeing, you know, the latest blockbusters. You know, and in the 1990s, that was a great time for films, very much like the 80s. You know, the 80s was sort of full of those wonderful films that we got. You know, the E.T., Back to the Future trilogy, Star Wars trilogy, all the sort of Ghostbusters, you know, so many different ones. Wonderful time. And then going into the 90s, you know, we carried on with the action films. And then we started to get the CGI films, you know, the Terminator 2, the Abyss, the Matrix, that was in the late 90s, all those wonderful films, you know, in that era. But like I say, my collecting of physical media in the 90s was fairly limited. I didn't do that much collecting. Now let's spring forward to sort of the mid 2000s, and the sort of introduction of Blu-ray, sort of, what was it, 2006, 2007. And I guess my introduction to that was really by sort of getting the PlayStation 3. I did have the PlayStation 2, which I did use as a DVD player. But I was quite into gaming sort of in the 90s as well. So the PlayStation was mainly used for that. But as we got into the sort of, yeah, the mid 2000s, the PlayStation 3 came out. Again, I was still a bit into the gaming side of things, but because it had this Blu-ray drive on it, and it was sort of the most accessible Blu-ray player at the time, I started to dip my toes into the Blu-ray collecting, and pretty much that sort of then catapulted me into sort of what I have now. You know, for many years, right the way through until about sort of 2015, 2016, when introduction of 4K, I think it was, or maybe 2017. I can't remember the exact dates. But yeah, I pretty much collected, you know, the Blu-ray format, lots of these collector's editions. And then more recently, sort of in the 2017 to the present day, really, it's been the 4K editions. Very much for the sort of, from about 2010 onwards, I was sort of following YouTubers on, you know, the Blu-ray community, and there were a lot more people doing it back then. A lot of different faces, which many channels have come and gone. One channel that still is going to this day is Dan, Talking Movies live streams. He's had several channel names, and originally he was Autumn Productions, and I can remember watching Dan way back, and he used to get really big views on his channel. But yeah, there's some great names that I used to follow. I never ever used to comment on YouTube. I only ever used to watch, and it wasn't until sort of about 2019 time, something like that, I started to comment, and then obviously created the channel, which I think will be about 4 years old this year. I think it was 2021 that I started it. Again, I might be a bit off with these dates. I'm not the best at dates, but yeah, like I say, all this stuff you see here, you know, a lot of these sets, like this one here, the Star Wars 4K set, the Back to the Future set, got a wonderful Transformers set down there, the Matrix, Blade Runner, Tron, and then all behind here you've got all the limited editions, everything blue editions, film arenas, Mantelabs. You know, I would say probably in the last 6 to 7 years, my collecting has certainly grown. I'm really slowing down now. I feel like well, I have said this in previous videos that, you know, I haven't really got a lot of room. I still keep buying things and still manage to find a bit of room, and hopefully going to be able to get some sort of bookcase at some point. Maybe have a bit of a sort of fiddle around, and, you know, might make a little bit of extra room, but, you know, there's only so much, unless you've got a dedicated room, which I don't have. You know, there's only so much you can collect, but I do feel at a point where I do feel I've got a wonderful collection. you know, and anything I get is a kind of bonus now. Still got a few things sort of on pre-order, but it's few and far between now. You know, I seem to have little flurries now and again. Recently, sort of been picking up some James Bond memorabilia, well, editions and stuff, because, you know, of the news around James Bond. It's sort of reignited my passion for that franchise, which, well, is a big part of my collection, James Bond. But yeah, wow, I've gone on for 20 minutes now, and I didn't think it was going to be quite as long a video as this, but yeah, that kind of gives you sort of an idea of my collecting history, where it all started for me. I still go to the cinemas now and again. The last film I went to see was Captain America 4. I do have some vouchers I got for Christmas, so I can go along to the cinema and still see sort of some films using these vouchers, so that's quite nice. But I'm quite selective now about what films I see at the cinema, because I have noticed in the last 5 to 7 years the qualities of film are probably not as good as they were in the sort of 70s, 80s and 90s. Every now and again you get a really good film, like June and June Part 2, you know, and there are some other ones that have come out in the last sort of 6, 7 years, but a lot of mediocre stuff now as well. Certainly on the streaming platforms, you're not, you know, a lot of this stuff's very forgettable. But yeah, it's still nice to go to the cinema, you know, and see those films on the big screen. So I'm lucky that I have my own little cinema, little sort of 85-inch screen, surround sound and that. So, you know, I get to experience all of this, you know, in sort of a home cinema setup, which I know a lot of people sort of don't have the capability for. I'm lucky that, you know, I'm in that position and I can enjoy watching films on a slightly bigger screen. But yeah, you can't beat the cinema experience. And yeah, I'm really privileged and lucky that I've been able to sort of afford to, you know, amass a great little collection. Not a massive collection by some standards, you know. I probably have about 600 to 700 movies. That's probably quite small compared to a lot of people. But I do have some nice collector's editions that, as I say, I've been fortunate to get, either as bargains. There have been one or two which maybe I've sort of paid a bit more money for, but some of these have been birthday and Christmas presents over the years. And it's just nice to be able to build a collection and sort of tailor what you like and enjoy. You know, anyone I'd suggest, if you're collecting now, just collect what films you want. Don't collect everything because you feel you need to buy everything. You don't need to do that. You know, just collect what you enjoy, what you love, so you can revisit these films time and time again. So anyway, yeah, I think that's kind of my collecting journey to this point anyway, 2025. Be interested to hear your thoughts on your collecting journey. Stick down in the comments. Yeah, how did you sort of get into collecting? You know, be interested to hear your thoughts down below. And if you're new here and you like these sort of chat videos, why not consider subscribing to the channel? Hit that subscribe button down below. Come and join the channel. I've got a wealth of playlists, all this kind of thing, action, sci-fi, martial arts, James Bond, a little bit of horror. Yeah, you know, there's plenty on there for people to enjoy. Please give the video a thumbs up as well. That really does help me out, and it tells YouTube that you like these sorts of videos, you like these kind of chats, and that encourages me to create more content for you to enjoy. Right guys, well that's the end of the video. Take care. See you next time. Bye now.